Hello once again. Welcome to Zephyr's BI and Analytics, where we learn by building BI projects. Today on this channel, we are going to be exploring the matrix native visual in Power BI. We are going to be looking at the different formatting options using specific column, cell elements, and possibly sparklines and spark columns. So if it's your first time on this channel, please subscribe, click on the notification button to always stay updated when new projects are uploaded. So quickly, let's take a look at the sample of the matrix visual that we want to recreate. We're also going to take a look at how I've applied these different formatting options for a matrix visual for one of the projects we are going to be working on much more later on this channel. So please stay with me. Great. Here is a sample of the matrix visual we're going to be recreating. I'm going to walk you through the different formatting options, styles that are applied to achieve the result we have on the screen here. I'll quickly give a shout out to Federico Pastor for his help in creating this matrix visual. So while we're here, let's quickly navigate to a report I have here where I've applied these formatting options. This is my submission for the Maven Analytics Sales Challenge for April 2024. We are going to be recreating this project much more later on this channel. So turn on your notification button to always stay updated when this project is uploaded. I'll quickly navigate back to our matrix visual. For the dataset we're going to be using for this matrix visual, I've attached a link to a Google Sheet that would allow you to download the dataset we're going to be using for this visual. So while we're here, I'll quickly navigate to my browser. Note that the link to the dataset is attached to the video, the comment section of this video. So I'll hit the enter button. This should take me to the Google Sheet for the dataset. Now we have two tables. We have the retail order full dataset table and the calendar table. Once I download this data, automatically will download both tables. So while we're here, I'll simply come to File. I'll navigate to Download. I'll click on Microsoft Excel. Once my download is complete, I'll quickly then navigate to my Power BI desktop. I've opened a new Power BI desktop. This one, now I can then bring in the dataset for us to begin creating the visual. So I'll quickly come to Get Data, Excel Workbook. I'll navigate to my downloads and pick a copy of the dataset. I'll click on Open. Great, so once the navigator pane is open, I'll check the calendar table and I'll also check the retail order full dataset table. Once I have those tables selected, I'll come to Transform Data. Great. So while in Power Query, we're not going to be performing any transformation on this dataset. If you want to see how we actually transform this data, there's a video on this channel. That's the retail sales optimization video. You will actually see how much we transformed this data. But for this sake of this visual, we're only going to be using few columns in this data. That's the sales column, quantity column, and possibly the state column. So we're not going to be performing any transformation while we're on Power Query. I think the only thing we're going to be doing is for this calendar table, I would just like to call this calendar. And for this retail order full dataset, I'll just call this, I'll call these orders. Great. So once we're done with this, I'll quickly check. Do we need to promote any headers? No. No. So I'll just come to close, then close and apply. Great. The next thing we need to do is navigate to our model view. That's the model view. We then establish a connection between these orders and calendar table using the order date and the date column. So I'll hold the date column on the calendar table, create a connection with the order date on the orders table. Great, so we have a one-to-many relationship. Once we're done with this, I'll navigate back to report view. While we're here, I'll simply just come to format your report, canvas setting. I'll change this to custom. I'll make this 1080 and make this 1920. Great. Quickly, let's then bring a table to hold all our calculations. To do that, I'll simply click on enter data. I'm not going to enter any data. I'll just name this table calculations. Once I'm done, I'll click on load. Great. So this table is going to hold all our DAS calculations. So what do we want to do? This is where it's up to you to actually decide which column you want to base your calculations on. So what I'm trying to say is, if you come to this native visual, the state column is actually the column that all the calculations are based on. This is actually the sales, then the previous year compared to the previous year, the change, are we having a positive change, negative change, the percent change, then the sales by month. So all the calculations are actually done using the state. They are based on the state. So it's up to you to actually decide. You can say, okay, I don't want to use state. I want to do all my calculations based on region. I want to do my calculations based on products and so on. So for this visual we're going to be creating, our calculations is going to be based on states. So let's navigate back to our report now, which simply means we need to take our matrix visual. So we extend our orders table. We need to take the state to the rows. For now, we don't have any calculation. So our first calculation is going to be our total sales. So if we come to the table, that's table view, and come to orders, what we want to do is simply scroll down. So we want to calculate the total sales for each of the states. Then we also want to look at the quantity. Then we want to look at the changes, the sales compared to the previous year across the number of years we have there, also the quantity. So which means the first calculation we're going to have is total sales. So in our calculation, we're going to stay on our calculation table and come to new measure. So our total sales is going to be AC. This is simply going to be the sum. It will be the orders sales column. That's the order sales. Great. So once we're done, I'll commit this. Great. Now we have the total sales. I'm simply going to delete this column we have here on this calculation. Delete from model and say yes. Great. So what we need to do next is add the total sales we just calculated now to our matrix table. So I'm going to click on total sales. Great. So we have the total sales. The next thing we need to do while we have this, let's do a filter to take this to the top on the filters pane here. Let's say top 15 by sales. We want to filter the states to the top 15 states in terms of sales. So I apply this filter. Great, so this is the top 15 states. But let's make this top 20. Let's make it top 20. So So this is the top 20 states. So one thing we can do, if you don't have this filter pane here, all you need to do is come to view and click on this filter. If you don't have it, check it. You see it here, then you can expand it. So we come to states, change the filtering to top N, the top 20 states based on total sales. Great. So the next thing we need to do here is simply come to format. For our style preset, we'll change this to none. Yeah, none. The next thing we need to do is come to column headers, change the size to 14 or 15, let's say 15. Great. Row headers, change the size to 15. Great. Then finally for values, that's the values, you change the size of the values to, let's say 14. Great. So while we're here, also navigate to grid. Once you're on grid, navigate to options. For the global font, let's make this 14. Then for the row padding, let's see if we can increase the row padding. Let's make it 5 or 10. 5 is okay. Let's expand this. Okay, row padding should be 5. 5 is okay. Yeah, 5 is okay. Great. Row padding is 5. Global font is 14. Great. So we have our, we can actually decide to sort this now by total sales, which is AC. Great. So we have our first value here, which is the state. Then we have the total sales. One thing we can do now is select the matrix visual, navigate to format, scroll down, come to specific column. The specific column now is our AC, that was our sales. Check the apply to header, check the apply to total. The next thing you do is click on align middle, that's center. Great. You also scroll down, the display unit, change it from none, take it to 1000. This is actually up to you. If you're working with a data set that has larger sales value, you can actually decide to format this in millions or billions or whichever one you want to do. So with this, we have a perfect total sales by state here on our matrix visual. So the next thing we need to do is, if we navigate to our matrix visual here, this column we have here is actually based on these sales, which means we need to bring in another total sales, then do a formatting that the total sales will be based on, they will display based on this column visual we have here. So what we need to do is simply come to our matrix visual. Now we need to create another calculation because we can't actually use the same calculation, but this is the same calculation we need. So all we need to do is just copy this calculation we have here, that's the total sales. I'm going to come to stay on this our calculations and say new measure. I'll simply just paste that, but I'll give it a name. I'll call this AC2, then I'll commit this. Next, we then bring in this and add it to our matrix visual. So I'll select the AC2. Great. So we have two total sales on our matrix visual. So what we need to do now is come to our formatting option once more. Now, once we're on our formatting option, specific column. Now we change the column we want to refer to here from AC to AC2. We also turn on the headers, turn on the totals, we align it center. Then we can finally say, okay, we want to change the unit to be 1000. Once we're done with this, we can close this. Now navigate down to cell elements. Cell elements. Once you're in cell elements, now change the series to AC2. We are referring to which is the total sales 2, not the first one, 2. Once you have the second one selected, now turn on the data bars. Great. Once the data bars are turned on, come and click on the conditional formatting we have here. Then change this to show bars only. Show bars only. Great. Once you check show bars only, you can then change the color. For now, I'm just going to pick on these blue options we have here. I'm going to pick the last one we have here. Great. Once you have that selected, for negative bar, I think I'll just leave that for now. I'll click on OK. Great. So now we can make a little adjustments here by just clicking and dragging this forward a bit. Great. So the next thing we need to do, we don't need this label we have up here. So what do we need to do? Select the matrix visual. Make sure you have the matrix visual selected. Come to format visual. Now specific column. Once you're in specific column, we have the series selected as a 2. Turn off every other thing except the apply to header. We want this formatting option we want to do now to be applied only to the header. And what do we want to do? We simply just change the text color to white. Wait. So that settles it. So we have the first two visuals already. So we have this and we have this. Next, we need this. That's the data previous year. So if you come to our calculations here, this delta previous year is actually the change based on previous year. That's the total sales, the change based on the previous year, which is actually the AC previous year. AC previous year. Then we need to calculate the change based on the previous year. That's the year-on-year change, which is actually the total sales minus the previous year change. So we're going to do this now. To do this, let's quickly navigate back to our report now. So the first thing we need to do is calculate the total sales based on previous year. So I'll stay on our calculations table. I'll come to new measure. So this is going to be the total sales previous year. That's AC previous year, which is equal to, we're simply going to say calculate. We're going to be calling on the calculate function here. What do we want to calculate? We already have a measure total sales there. So we'll simply say calculate total sales. That's the total sales. Once we're done with that, we are going to say go back 1 year. That's using the dated add. We're going to be using the dated add. We want to go back. We want to refer to the calendar column here. That's the calendar date. We want to refer to the calendar date. This is the calendar date. Then we want to say you should go back 1 minus 1. That's the interval. Then we say year. Great. So I'll close this. And finally close it once more. So look at what we're doing here. We're simply saying calculate the sales based on previous year. We already have a measure that calculates the sales already. We're saying calculate the total sales. Go back 1 year in our calendar table. That's our calendar table. Yeah, great. So once we're done with this, we can actually commit this. So now we can easily calculate the year-on-year percent change. And how do we do that? What we need to do next is simply stay on our calculation table. So we'll come to new measure. What we want to do now is simply say we want to know the difference between our total sales, which is AC, and our sales previous year, which is ACPY. This is what we want to do. So all we need to do is simply say AC now. That's our total sales minus our total sales previous year. That's ACPY. Great. This will give us the year-on-year change. So once we're done, we just commit this. So once we have this, the next thing we need to do, we need this in our visual. So I'll select the matrix visual and I'll pick the year-on-year change as AC, total sales minus previous year sales. So I'll click on it. Now you can actually see we're having 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's because we don't have any year selected as of this moment. So quickly, I'll take on the slicer. I'll click on the slicer, visual. I'll pick go to the calendar table and click on year. I'll simply change this slicer settings. Instead of between, I'll see vertical list. Wait, so I'll reduce the size. So up here, we have the year already. So if we go back, if we select 2014, we're not going to see any change because we are in 2014. We are comparing this based on the previous year, remember. So now if we go back 2015, you start seeing the changes. That's here we have minus 2,859 minus 15,000. So you're going to be seeing the changes when you start filtering your um, visual. So once we have this sorted, this is actually the change we want. So once we have this sorted, the next thing we need to do is scroll down. Where you have the values here, I'll double check on this. I'll delete it and rename. What I want to rename it to, I'll hold down my Windows key on my keyboard and hit my full stop, that's the dot. Then I'll have options. Great. Once I have these options, I'll come to this symbol here and select this delta here. Once I have that selected, I can then add previous year and hit the enter button. So automatically I've changed the label up here. So the next thing we need to do while this matrix visual is selected, come to format. Now we need to go to our specific column, scroll down. Now we want the changes to be applied to everything. So the next thing we need to do now is say center, align center. Remember, you have to change this from AC2 now to the column we want to refer to. That's the data previous year. Then turn everything on. Then align center. Great, so we have it aligned already. So you can also come down and change the display unit to 1000. Great, so you have the display unit in 1000. Great. Great, so for what we have next on our matrix visual. So if you come to our matrix visual, this change you have here with these bars going forward and backward is actually based on the previous year. That's the year-on-year change, which means we need another measure of this same measure. We need it again. So you know we can't use this same measure. So what we need to do is just create the same measure but give it a different name. So navigate back to our table now. In our matrix table, I'll come to our calculations. This is the same calculations we need, the claims calculation we need. So I'll simply make a copy of it. I'll copy this. I'll come back to our calculations and say new measure. I'll simply paste it, but I'll call this 2. So I'll check. Next, I'll bring this in now. So that's AC, that's total sales minus previous year sales. I'll check it. Great, so we have this on our matrix table now. So we'll come to format once more. Scroll down, specific column, scroll down, change the series, that's the AC minus that's AC previous year. We turn everything on, scroll down, alignment should be center, make it center. Okay, once we have it there, great. So while we're here, scroll down to cell elements now. Cell elements. Once you're in cell elements, change the series to the one we just created as total sales and AC previous year. Change the series. Once we have the series changed, you turn on data bars. Once we have our data bars turned on, go to conditional formatting now. We only want to show the bars only. Then for positive bar, we want the positive bar to be green color. So I'll come to more colors. I'll change this to green. So let's say we pick this green color. So one thing we need to do, please note the color code for the green color you want to select here. So I'll simply note the color code for the green color we want to select here because we're going to need it much more later. Once I have the green color selected, I'll come to the negative bar now. What do we want as a negative bar? We want the red color, so I'll come to more colors. We're already on red. I'll change it to the red. Also note the red color. That's the color code. In this case, note the red color code you're using for this very one now, because you're going to need it later. So once we have this, I'm going to click on OK now. So I'm going to click on OK. Great. So you have the negative bars tied to the negative values and the positive bar tied to the positive values. So once we have this done, one thing we need to do, we don't need this label up here. We need the label? I don't think so. Yes, we don't need the label up there. So what we need to do now is come to our specific column. We already have that column selected. We turn off every other thing. We only want to apply this change to the header. So we change the text color and say white. Great. So with this, we are actually done with that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, we also need, this is the percent change value. Now, this is the previous change in value. So we need the percent change for this previous year. That's the year-on-year percent change. We need it to be in percentage, not the value. So what we need to simply do is make another calculation. So we'll come to calculations, new measure. This will be based on the percent change. That's what we want to display, which is actually total sales. We want the percent change. So I'll just say AC percent and I'll say, okay, I'll divide now. What do you want to divide? Ideally, we're supposed to say total sales minus previous year sales divided by the total sales. Already we have a measure that that is actually the total sales minus previous year sales. So we need to refer to that measure now, which is AC, AC minus, that's AC minus AC previous year minus AC we have that measure here. So I'm going to look for it. I'm just going to look for it. Look at here, that's AC minus AC previous year. So once we have this, we're going to divide this by our total sales, which is AC also. Sorry. So I'll simply close this. Great. So I'll commit this now. Great. So this will give us our percent change. So once I have this, I'll select the matrix visual and I'll bring the AC percent now. Great. But the values are not in percentage. So what we need to do is select the AC percent, select the measure, that's the AC percent, to 6%, and change it, format to percent. Great. So we have it in percentage now. That's the percent change. So I'm simply going to drag this a bit. Great. So to make sure the alignment is in order, we're going to come to format. We're going to come to specific column. We'll scroll down, change the series to AC percent now, turn on everything, and scroll down and see align center. Great. 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 So we have the value, we have the indicator, and we have the percent change. The only thing we need to do here is apply our colors. We also want the values here. If it's a negative value, it should be red. That's why I said you should actually take note of the red color code. If it's a positive value, it should be green. Same, we're going to apply same thing to the percent and same thing to this value we have here. So what we need to do is simply create a simple calculation, not really a complex calculation. If you come to this visual we have here, we have what we call AC color. That's the AC color. That's the total sales color. It's simply based on the AC minus the AC previous year. So if it's greater than 0, it should be the green color. If it's less than, else it should be the red color. So what we need to simply do is come to can report now and say calculations and go to new measure. I'll simply call this AC color. And this is simply if. Now we're saying if that's the total sales minus the previous year's sales, that's the change. If it's greater than 0, then it should be the color code. That's our green color code. Remember I said you should take note of the color code. I wrote mine down, which is 299821. Great, so remember to put a comma here. It should be the green color code. Else, it should be the red color code. The red color code, what I have here is CF, that's 1A, 1A. So I'll close this. So it's a simple if function. If it's a positive, that's green. If it's negative, else is red. That's it. So once I'm done, I'm going to commit this. So what we can do now is simply select this matrix visual once more. Select the matrix visual. Come to format. Scroll down. Come to cell elements. Scroll down. Select the series. The series we want to apply this color change to is actually the data previous year. Then turn on the font color. We want to change the font color. Turn it on. Once you have the font color turned on, then come to conditional formatting. We want the formatting to be based on field value. And we want that field value now to be the AC color. So once you change that, you can now click on OK. So you have the color change. So for now, we're only getting the color change for that's green. I don't know, maybe the red color code is wrong, so I'll quickly look for a way to get the correct red color code. The red color code is actually based on this. So I'll come to bars. I'll come grab this red color code we have here. I hope I wrote it well. So I'll copy this. What I just need to do is come to the AC color here and change the color code. Okay, I think I missed something. I didn't add the hash symbol to it. The hash symbol, that's the symbol. I didn't add it to it. So once I add that, I'll click on commit now. So you should have a red color here. Great, so that is taken care of. So the next thing, we need to apply the same font color, conditional formatting font color to this percentage we have here. So one thing we need to do is we simply need to create this AC percent again. But this time around, we're not going to format it to percent. We're just going to recreate it without formatting it to percent. We can actually use this one to do the formatting and the color formatting. So what we need to do is simply copy our AC percent. I'll make a copy of it. I'll come to calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll paste this. I'll only name this AC percent 2 and I'll commit it. Great. So what we need to do next is this AC color. I'll simply copy this now. I'll make a copy of this. So I'll come to calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll paste this, but it's not going to be based on this total sales minus previous year sales. It's not going to be based on that anymore. Rather, it's based on the AC percent 2. AC percent 2. Remember that the AC percent 2 is the one we actually did not format to percentage, so it's actually displaying the value. So we should be able to apply the same color option. Now this is AC color. We already have something named AC color, so we need to change this. We can just add 2 to this and click on commit. Great. So once our matrix visual is selected now, we can come to format, scroll down, go to specific column. Which column are we referring to now? Is the AC percent? No, not specific column now. Cell element actually. Cell elements. Scroll down. Which series are we referring to here? AC percent. That's the percent. Now we turn on the font color. Turn it on and come to conditional formatting. Same principle. It should be based on feed value. Which value now? AC color 2. AC color 2. And click on OK. Great. So we've succeeded in formatting and the percentage to be, if it's a negative percent, that's red, positive percent, that's green. Great. For the next value we have on this matrix table is actually the total sales by month. If you check these bars we have here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The total sales by the month. So this is breaking down the sales by the month. So what we need to do next, we already have measures for total sales. In fact, we have two. We have AC and AC2. We need to create one more because we can't actually use the same measure anymore. We just need to create one more. So make a copy of this. We're going to call this AC3, by the way. So new measure. We'll paste this and call this AC3. That's total sales 3. Great. So once we're done, select the matrix visual, bring in the total sales 3. So we have the total sales 3. Scroll down. On your values, you have total sales 3 here. So what you need to do, click on this drop down here and say add Sparkline. Click on add Sparkline. Now we have the total sales, that's the y-axis selected. What do we want this field to be based on? We want it to be based on our calendar, then we want it to be based on the month number, not name. I want it to be based on the month. So what it's trying to say is visualize the total sales by month. Total sales by month. So when I click on create, it's going to create spark lines displaying the total sales by the months. This is actually the 12 months. Total sales by the month. So one thing I need to do here, I also have the total sales here and I have the total sales by month here. So I'm going to come to the values and I'll uncheck the total sales, that's AC3. So I only have the total sales by month here. The next thing I need to do, once you come to format now and scroll down, you will actually see spark lines down here. So you can actually extend, scroll down once more. So you have the spark line here already. You can then decide to change if you want it to be spark line or you want it to be column. If you want it to be spark line, you can leave it as spark line. But for now, let's say we want it to be column, you click on column. Then you also can change the color. For this, let's use this color we've been using before now. Great. So it's still up to you to probably extend the size a bit or reduce. So let's say we leave it here. So if you count the bars we have here, they're actually 12. So this is actually showing the total sales by the different months. So one thing we need to do here, this label, we still don't need it. So all we need to do is just go to our specific column. We change the series now to the AC by month, that's AC3 by month. We turn off every other thing and say we want to apply this change only to the header. Scroll down now, change the text color to white. Great. So when you select 2016, you see the changes. You select 2017, you see the changes. 2016, you see the change. 2015, you see the change. Great. So with this, we're actually done with one part of the visual. That's the part that has to do with the total sales. So if you come to this visual now, we're actually done with the part that has to do with the total sales. So we have the state, the total sales, previous year value, percent change value, percent change, then the sales by month. Next, we need to go to the quantity. The quantity. So for the quantity, is more like we're repeating everything we've done for the sales. We're repeating everything for the quantity. The same principle. We're repeating everything for the quantity. So let's navigate back to our report now. So we're simply going to start by creating a measure for total quantity. Creating a measure for total quantity. And to do that, just stay on our calculations now and say new measure. We're simply going to say this is quantity, that's QT. It's simply a sum. Sum are orders now. That's orders quantity. That's orders quantity. Wait, so I'll check this, I'll commit this. Remember that we need this orders quantity now. We'll be needing it. Maybe we need quantity 1, quantity 2. Yeah, we need quantity 3 also. So we have quantity 1 already. This is quantity 1. So we need 2 more. So I'll simply make a copy of this now and say calculations, new measure. I'll simply paste this and call this Q2. That's QT2. I'll make one more. I'll call this QT3. Wait, so once I'm done, I'll simply select the matrix visual and bring in the QT, that's the first one, quantity. So for this, I'm simply come here and extend it away. So next, I'm going to come to format, scroll down, come to specific column once more. I'll change the series to QT. I'll turn on everything, apply to all. I'll say the alignment should be center. Wait. So with this, we're good. Let's just extend this a bit. Great. So while the match visual is selected, we need to bring in QT2, that's quantity 2. Great. So once we have that in, we need to go to format once more. Scroll down. Now we'll go to cell elements. We scroll down, change the cell the series to QT2, then turn on the data bars. Come to conditional formatting now. We say show bars only. Change the color to the blue color we've been using before now. Then click on OK. You can then extend this bar a bit. Great. The next thing we can do is navigate back to specific column, turn off everything. No, please turn this on. Change the series. Remember to change the series to QT2. Then you can turn off everything. Turn on apply to header only. Scroll down. Change the text color now to white. Great. So what do we need next? What we need is that's the data previous year. That's the quantity previous year. For us to do that, we need to calculate the quantity previous year. So we'll come to calculations now. New measure. So this is actually quantity previous year, which is equal to calculate. We have a measure for total quantity already. That's total quantity. Now, dated add. That's date add. We want to refer to our calendar dates. That's the date we want to refer to. Our calendar date. We also want to go back. The interval should be 1 year. and it should be here. So we close this. So with this, we have our previous year quantity. So for us to get the change, that means we need to do the quantity minus the previous year quantity. So come to our calculations once more. New measure. So this should be quantity minus quantity previous year. Quantity minus quantity previous year, which is simply QT as quantity now minus quantity previous year, which we have here. Great. So with this, we click on commit. So we bring in that value now, that's the QT minus QT previous year. After we remove this, select the visual, that's the magic visual. So we bring in the QT minus QT previous year. Yes, so this is the quantity minus the quantity previous year. So for this, what we need to simply do is come to format visual now, scroll down, simply scroll down, specific column, change the series, apply to all, then align center. Great. Once we're done with this, the next thing we need to do is rename this. So we'll scroll down here. Remember, on the values here, just double click, delete this, hold down your Windows key and your full stop, that's dot, search for the data symbol, then we can say previous year, that's PY. So with this, we'll change the label up here. Once we're done with this, the next thing we need is to bring in this same value, but we only need to display, we don't need to display the value, we just need to display the change. So, which means we need to make another copy of this. That's the QT minus QT previous year. We've done this before for total sales, so I'll simply copy this. Come to calculations once more. I'll say new measure. I'll paste this. All I need to do is just rename this to be 2 and commit. So once we bring in this value now, that's the QT minus QT previous year, select the matrix visual and bring in this value. Great. So for this value, we can then come to format, scroll down, cell elements, scroll down, change the series, that's the 2. What we need here is to turn on data bars, then come to conditional formatting. We say we want to display just the bars only. Then for the positive bar, remember the color code for the positive bar, that's 299 821. Then for the negative bar, remember the color code also, that's CF1A1A. Great, so once we're done with this, we click on OK. Great, so one thing we need to also do is come to specific column, scroll down, change the series to that's QTQTPY, turn off everything. We only want to apply these changes to this change to the header. Then we say the text color should be white. Great. We're almost there. So the next thing we need is to bring in the percent change. And you know, before now, to do that is simple. We've already done that for the total sales, which is simply a division of the AC minus the AC previous year by the total. So which is quantity now. So what we need to do is come to calculations, say new measure. So what we need to say is this should be quantity percentage that's quantity percentage. So what we need to say is simply divide. What we want to divide now is the QT, QT previous year divided by the QT also, that's the total quantity. These labels can be confusing, but I'm sure you know what they mean by now. You know what they mean by now. So when we're done with this, we simply just commit this. Remember that we need one more of this because we can actually, once we format this to percent, we need to format this to percent, by the way. So I'll click on the percentage value. This will enable us to format this to percent. I'll simply copy this now because we need one more copy of this for our color change. So we can bring in the QT percent. Wait, so we have the QT percent here. One thing we can do is simply come to format now, scroll down, specific column, scroll down, change the series to QT percent, apply to all, turn on everything, then alignment should be middle. Great. So once we're done with this, I'll simply make one more copy of this QT percent now. That's the measure. Calculations, new measure. I'll simply paste. I'll only label this to be QT 2% 2. Remember, I'm not going to format this value now. I'm not going to format this measure to be percent. I'm going to leave it that way because I want to use it for the color change. So for the first color change, which is this data previous year for quantity, is going to be based on the quantity change. So I'll simply copy this now. I'll come to calculation, say new measure. I'll paste this. I'll rename this to be QT. Now, it's not based on AC minus AC previous year. It's actually QT minus QT previous year. So that's QT minus QT previous year. So we have every other thing in place. So I'll just commit this. We also need this once more, but it's going to be based on the QT percent too. So I'm going to come to calculations once more and say new measure. I'll paste that. This is going to be QT now. I'll take this to be color 2. Now it's not going to be based on this anymore, rather it's going to be based on AC percent. Note, it's not going to be based on AC percent with the first one, it's going to be based on AC percent too. So once no, this is QT percent actually. That's QT percent too. That's QT percent too. This naming can be confusing sometimes. So I'll commit this. So once we're done, I'll select the matrix visual. I'll come to format. I'll scroll down. Now I'll come to specific cell element, not specific column now, cell element. So I'll pick, what we need to pick is that's the quantity QT minus QT previous year. Wait, so I'll pick that. That's I have to be sure what we need to pick here. I have to be sure. So scroll down. This is what we're looking for. That okay, great. So come down, cell element, QT, great. So this is not what we need. We actually need, this is not, I need to be sure. So I think we have same value for both. We labeled both same, so I need to, let's be sure. I think we need to change the label. So for this now, we have both of them labeled same, so I'll simply just change this to QT. Yeah, I'll change this very one to QT. So when I come to format now, I'll scroll down to cell elements. The series now, I can actually see, yeah, that's Delta QT now. So I'll turn on the font color, conditional formatting now. It should be based on feed value. Calculation should be based on Q, that's color, QT color. Yeah, the first one. So click on OK. Great, so we have the color change already. So finally, while we're here, I'll simply change this from QT to QT% now. I'll also turn on the font color and come to conditional formatting now. It should also be based on feed value. The feed value this time around is QT color 2. That's QT color 2. And click on OK. Great. Yeah, so finally we need to display the quantity sold by that's the total quantity by month. So to do that, remember we have total quantity, that's QT3 already calculated before now. So all we need to do is select that. Great, so we are having total quantity once more. So we scroll down now. So where we have total quantity, that's the last one, Q3. Click on the drop down, add Sparkline. Yes, it's based on the total quantity. It should be based on the calendar table months. So pick months and click on create. So we have our Sparklines created already. We also have the total quantity here, so we need to remove that. So that's QT3. We need to uncheck that. So we only have the Sparkline. So you can actually decide to leave the Sparkline if you want Sparklines, but we don't want Sparkline in this case. So we'll come to Format Visual, scroll down, extend the Sparkline, scroll down, change the Sparkline now to QT3 by month. Remember it was in AC3 by month, QT3 by month. Then change it from line to column. You can actually change the color also to this. Great, so you can decide to then extend this a bit. You can also extend, then finally extend this a bit. Great. So finally, one thing you can also do, we need to do is come to cell elements, scroll down, change this to be, that's QT3 by month. No, not cell elements now, that's specific column, please. So specific column, scroll down, change this to be QT3 by month, turn off everything except for the apply to header, then change the text color to white. Great, so with this we have a similar matrix visual to the one I have on the other side. Great, so we have a similar matrix visual to the one I have here. Great, we have a similar matrix visual to the one I have here. So finally, I think the only thing I did was just to select the matrix visual, come to general effects, turn on the visual border, turn on the shadow. Great, so we have something similar. Finally, you can select the matrix visual and say the grid, scroll down, say border. Then we can change this border and say row. You can actually play with this. Wait, so I just unchecked the right. So we have similar matrix visual. So one thing you can also do on this border, these are just personal changes, it's up to your preference, you can change this. On this border, I can change the color from black to white. Great, so now for this year, I think one thing I'll do is change it to the new slicer. Great, so you have the year, the new slicer. So by the time you pick 2015, you see the change, 2016, you see the change. For 2014, you're not going to see any change. That's because there's no change yet. You have to go to the previous year. So that's, now you have, when you have 2015 selected, you now have based on previous year, which is 2014. So you have 2016 also. You can bring in more slicer. You can actually decide to slice this by, let's say you I'll click on a new slicer here, and we can actually decide to slice this by region. We have region here. Yes. So I'll simply select the region. Wait, so you can simply slice this by region. So you're in 2015, for example, you can slice by the East region, you can slice by the Central region, South region, West region. It's up to you. So with this, we've come to the end of this video. You can actually, if this video was helpful, you can leave a like. Remember to turn on your notification button for more videos like this. So once I'm done, I'll simply save this. You go ahead and save yours. I already have this on my system, so I don't need to save it anymore. So thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. See you next time. Bye for now.